Okay, welcome to Chapter 2, Section 1, Economic Systems. We're starting to get into the heart of how the different systems work in our society as well as other societies. And we're going to look at three basic questions that must be answered. Every society needs to answer this. What are they going to make? How are they going to make it? And who to make it for? And so each system must answer those questions. Okay, so the first system is a traditional system, and the idea is what we would see in small tribal societies. Um, Very much like family connections, and that is a tribal group. They're family connected. Whatever you do, typically that's the type of job that your children will do. So although there could be different jobs within that tribal group, um, what you do is often defined by your immediate family. In a command economy, and going back to traditional society, there's often no economic system, monetary system for the rationing of the product. Again, it's just like a family. It works very similar. Now, back to a command economy, the government themselves answers the three basic economic questions. Okay, we'll look more about command economies. We'll think about communist system will be an example of a command economy. And then finally, there's a market economy, and the individuals themselves, away from the government, answer the three economic questions. So those are the three systems. Okay. So the question often gets argued, how is our economy doing? Well, it depends. It depends which thing you're looking for. When a doctor does a checkup, they're going to look at your weight and temperature and blood pressure and pulse ox and all these different things to see how you're doing. And all of those things together give you a picture of your overall health. It's the same thing with our economic system. There's many little bits that can be studied and analyzed. Number one is freedom, economic freedom. Do people get to do what they want with their own money? If you want to start a business, you get to choose where to put that business and how you want to make it, and that's an expression of who you are and your freedom. And that's when you walk into somebody's business, in some ways you're seeing expression of the owner and how they are. Another is efficiency. How well are we using those resources? Those, we talk about factors of production, land, labor, capital, all that kind of stuff. How well are those resources being used? And in some societies, they're used very efficiently, and some they're not. Okay. Again, when there's lots of waste, there's less overall stuff for all of us to have. Equity. Another word for equity is fairness. Um, Now, the concept of fairness is difficult because fairness does not always mean equal. So again, there's different concepts of what is fair. That's something we're going to have to go back and look at. And um, is the are the rules the same for everybody in the system? Okay. Next one is security. Things happen where we become unable to work. We might get hurt, we might lose our job, or we might just get too old. There just comes a point when your body just can't do certain jobs. And so economic security is that net, that safety net to protect you when those things happen. Next one is full employment. The idea is having everybody that wants to have a job has a job. Getting total full employment is kind of a pipe dream, not really going to happen. Right now, as I'm recording this in the summer, we're sitting at 2013. We're sitting at 7% unemployment. So people aren't too happy with that. Once we get to about 4 or 5%, that's pretty much the sweet spot. If you have no unemployed people, then if you want to start a business, there are no employees. You have to go poach from other companies, and so that becomes an issue. Um, okay, the next factor or thing we look at in determining whether this is good or not are price stability. And you can have high prices and low prices, but what we want for the most part is stable, where it's not changing rapidly from day to day. If you see rapid changes up or down, then people panic. When people panic, they start doing irrational things. And we see this all the time when there's a major earthquake or fire or hurricane. We see people sometimes doing things that in the long run aren't very good for them. Okay. And then economic growth, the idea is we it's human nature to always want more. And growth means over time, more people have more stuff. Now, if you compare what our generation has access to and the average amount of things in a house, that it's gone up over time. Okay, so that's what we want to see, growth, where things are generally getting better as time goes on. Now, if you were to sit down, members of the Republican Party, and you sit down with members of the Democratic Party, you're going to hear agreement on those goals, those 7 goals that we just went through. Um, but the method to get to what we want is very, very different. And so that's where we see massive disagreement. And so um, at this point, I just want to say, our system works fairly well. There are things that don't work well. There are inefficiencies. There are issues of unfairness. There are issues of, when you look at all of these goals, there are things that sometimes we don't have stability. Sometimes our employment drops. We just went through a major recession back down at around 2008 or so when a lot of people lost jobs. Sometimes things aren't very free. Economic security is not always there. But for the most part, it works fairly well. There is room for a lot of improvement. Okay, so that's one of the things most Americans understand, that they're fairly well off compared to people living in other places. Thank you very much, and that is the end of this lecture.